Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Tom.
Hey, it's day 3 of our literature unit. We're going to focus on the author herself and some of the themes that you might find in the book. We're going to talk more about that as we dive into this.
We certainly are. So we will talk about the author herself. And this book was written quite a long time ago.
Yeah.
So I suspect it's online somewhere in the public domain. Maybe you can get a free copy of it somewhere and try to read it yourself. But, if you don't have the patience to read a really big book in English, you could probably try to figure out how to download the movie somehow, because it was a very famous Hollywood movie which was released way back in 1939, I believe.
Yeah.
So let's get to it, everybody. Let's find out about the author of Gone with the Wind. Let's read the entire contents of our lesson right now.
Margaret Mitchell was born in Atlanta in 1900. As a child, she wrote stories and plays. Mitchell worked as a journalist for the Atlanta Journal, starting in 1922. But 4 years later, she broke her ankle and quit to stay home and recover. Over the next 3 years, she secretly wrote Gone with the Wind, a romantic Civil War novel told from a Southern point of view. Published in 1936, it was an instant success and made Mitchell an overnight celebrity. The 1939 film version became an immediate classic. Mitchell withdrew from the public eye to manage her literary estate. At the age of 48, she died tragically after being hit by a car. Crowds of fans, including U.S. President Harry Truman, mourned her passing. Gone with the Wind's theme of the transformation of Southern culture is made clear by its setting of the Civil War, when slaves were freed. Without slave labor, the white, land-owning former ruling class had to adapt to a new civilization. Scarlett's intelligence, courage, and ability to pursue her goals help her prevail, while the South is rebuilding after the ordeals of war. Scarlett's character also demonstrates the theme of changing gender roles. Before the war, women managed the home and men managed business. Scarlett reverses these roles when she supervises Frank's business, although it earns her a reputation for being unladylike. The most important theme is survival. Scarlett survives war, starvation, and changing social conventions by any means necessary, even by killing a man or marrying her sister's fiancé for money to save Tara. She develops from a pampered girl to the provider for her whole family, to a successful businesswoman who breaks social customs, not only surviving, but eventually becoming prosperous.
Okay, let's get to it. Let's discuss the contents of today's lesson. Today we're talking about the author of Gone with the Wind herself, Margaret Mitchell. Now, she was born in Atlanta in 1900. Okay, so right at the beginning of the 20th century there, she was born down south in Georgia in Atlanta. And as a child, she wrote stories and plays. So that was kind of her hobby when she was a kid. She wrote stories and she wrote dramatic plays.
Yeah, so she was an early writer. You find out a lot of the authors that we've focused on actually began to write quite young. So she liked to write her stories and plays, and she worked as a journalist for the Atlanta Journal starting in 1922. I want to point out that is so unusual, 1922, for a woman to be a journalist was pretty groundbreaking. Meaning there weren't a lot of women doing that back then. You had to be pretty tough to be a journalist or a reporter, as a woman at least, back then. So she started working as a journalist for this paper, the Atlanta Journal, and then 4 years later, she broke her ankle and quit to stay home and recover. Over the next 3 years, that's when she secretly started to write Gone with the Wind. Now remember, Margaret Mitchell is a Southerner. She is not a Northerner. And it took quite a while for the people in the South to stop resenting the North because the North had beaten them, right? And the Southerners are quite proud. They're proud of their, part of the United States, and, the North is proud of their part. And so she actually set her book in the South, and it definitely is told from a Southern point of view. So it makes the South look good, and usually in the Gone with the Wind, it's the Northerners who look bad. They look like the bad people, even though it was the Southerners who had the slaves.
Yeah, they do say the winners always get to write history. So, for World War II, of course, the Americans and the Allies won, so we pretty much get their version of the story there. And the same goes true for other wars going on around the world. So, indeed, this was kind of bucking tradition here. She actually wrote this book from the Southern point of view, from the loser's point of view. And published in 1936, it was an instant success and made Mitchell an overnight celebrity. So that's something that most authors hope for, that their novel will become successful right away.
Yeah.
So it was published during the Great Depression of the 1930s. So I guess people were out of work then and they didn't have much to do. So I guess I'll go buy a novel and read it. So that's what they did in 1936. And this novel was an instant success. It was an overnight success. And she became an overnight celebrity. So pretty soon she was on radio programs giving interviews, and there were articles written about her because she was an overnight success.
Yeah, but it can be a little shocking to someone who wasn't famous before if that celebrity comes very quickly. And that's what it felt like to her. So she actually withdrew from the public eye, which just means somebody is getting too much attention and they kind of just, go into their homes and try to avoid all press. Back then, of course, there was no social media. She really would have had a hard time in today's world. They didn't have social media, but you would have seen her, you would have heard her interviewed on the radio. Maybe you would have seen her picture in the paper, but she got tired of all the attention. So she withdrew from the public eye, and she focused her time on just managing her literary estate. Her book was so popular, and again, she sold the book rights so they could make the film, so she made a lot of that too. She was managing the money that she had made off just Gone with the Wind. I didn't realize she had died at such a young age. She died very young. So I can see now why she didn't get the sequel written. When you talk about literary guys, that's an adjective. It just means somebody who is writing, typically their novels. Literature typically refers to novels that are pretty high quality. They're not, things that, anybody could write.
Like Harlequin romances or something like that.
like romance books or
Pulp Fiction,
Pulp
stuff
Fiction,
like that.
That anybody could write. Usually it has to be a certain quality. It doesn't necessarily have to be, qualified as a classic novel. Something isn't classic until it's been popular for many, many years. And there are a lot of people in that area who all agree, oh, this is really good writing.
Exactly. And she just had this one book. I think she had another one, but she made a lot of money on this one. And again, as Stephanie said, she kind of got tired of all the attention. So she withdrew from the public eye, and she wanted to take care of her estate, more specifically her literary estate, which means all the money that she made from her novel. I guess she had a lot. She had more money than she knew what to do with.
And look here, I'm sorry, Tom, we're using estate as something besides a house and land and property. Someone's estate could just be the things they produced in their lives. If someone passes away, sometimes a family will get together to divide up the estate. It could be cash, it could be land, it could be other things. So this is just money she earned from her writing.
But unfortunately, at the age of 48, she died tragically after being hit by a car. I believe this accident occurred in Atlanta itself. I think she was on the way with her husband to see a movie, and she got hit by a car that was going too fast.
Wow.
So, yeah, everybody be careful when you step into the road. Look all ways. It can happen to you. It could happen to you. We certainly hope it doesn't. And crowds of fans, including U.S. President Harry Truman, mourned her passing. Remember, Truman was president in 1949 when this happened. So lots of people mourned her passing. So M-O-U-R-N, mourn. That means to be sad when someone's died.
Yeah. Someone can also be in mourning. I know there are some cultures where if someone has passed away close to you, that person will wear black clothing for a while. You could say they are in mourning. Now, Gone with the Wind's theme of the transformation of Southern culture is made clear by its setting of the Civil War when slaves were freed. So, again, she wanted to write about the South in a positive way. She felt like they had really been, I don't know, I guess if you are on the losing side of a war and the other side or the enemy has come and destroyed so much of your homes, your life, your everything, and have killed a lot of people that you love, you would want to kind of defend your home. And that's kind of how it felt reading Gone with the Wind. It was definitely positive. It was a positive reflection of the South instead of a negative one. Transformation means when something changes completely. Maybe you've seen someone has gone through maybe a transformation in terms of changing their wardrobe and their haircut and all this stuff. And they looked pretty bad before. And then, someone helps them with their hair and makeup and gets them a new wardrobe. And it's almost like they're transformed in front of you. Well, this theme of the transformation of Southern culture is one of the themes that our writer wants to focus on. And what changed a huge amount was the fact that these Southern owners no longer could turn to slaves to have them work the property. They had to find another way to make a living.
Right, there was a big transformation, of course, for all those white people down there in the South. Imagine the kind of transformation that all the black people had to go through. That's another story.
A lot of them just went to the North at that point.
Indeed, and they still face lots of problems over the next several hundred years. But in any case here, yes, the slaves were freed, and the white land-owning former ruling class had to adapt to a new civilization. They had to make some changes to adapt. That's what to adapt means, to make some changes so that you can fit into a new situation. It's different from adopt, which would mean you bring in, a stray dog into your house or a child or something. Adapt means you kind of make some changes. Your office could make some adaptations for a new kind of business, for example.
Big changes. We're going to talk about what these are, or what these changes were, I should say, because it was in the past. But first, we're going to take a quick break and listen to our Chinese teacher.
Hello, my name is Shelby. 现在进行单元13第3天的中文讲解。今天的内容关于作者及这本书的主旨。作者出生于亚特兰大，长大后担任记者 （journalist）。第3句的中间，它是指文字记者。一般记者通称会用 reporter R-E-P-O-R-T-E-R。另外，驻外记者 correspondent C-O-R-R-E-S-P-O-N-D-E-N-T。电视新闻播报员就是 a news anchor A-N-C-H-O-R。第3句，后来脚踝受伤，在家写作，花了10年的时间完成《飘》这本书。第4句，这本书从南方观点叙述美国的内战。在它后面 point of view 观点或者是 viewpoint， 中文所谓的观点，在英文可能配合不同的文字，用不同的单字来表达。例如历史观点 a historical standpoint， 观点不一样 not identical in views， 这里就用到2个不同的单字来表达观点。下一句，一出版便是大成功，作者一夜成名。句首 published in 1936， 这部分是省略掉连接词 when， 相同主词 it 以及 been 的分词构句，只留下过去分词，使整句话更简洁。句子最后的 an overnight celebrity， overnight 形容词一夜之间，修饰后面的 celebrity 名人 表示一夜成名。类似用法，例如说 an overnight stay in Paris， 在巴黎停留过夜，或者 pack an overnight bag， 打包在外过夜用的旅行袋。在48岁的时候，因为车祸去世，大批的粉丝哀悼他的逝世。在第9句的前面 crowds of fans， 一大群粉丝，形容群组的时候，因为对象不同，单位也会不同，例如一群人 a crowd 或者 a group of people。 大型动物，例如牛 a herd of cattle HERD， 鸟 a flock of birds FLOCK， 昆虫 a swarm of bees SWARM， 鱼群 a school of fish， 学校那个生字。这本书第一个探讨的主题是南方文化的转型，从前的白人统治阶级必须适应新的社会咯。所以到第3段的第2句后面，动词变于 adapt to， 适应 to 后面加名词，例如 the new way of life， 适应新生活。另外介绍2个相似的拼字 adopt ADOPT， 采用或领养，例如 adopt your idea， 采纳你的意见。 adapt ADEPT， 擅长的 He is adept at music， 他擅长音乐。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. We're also now going to be talking about some of the themes that you'll find in the book Gone with the Wind. So let's talk about some of the other themes. You notice in the book that Scarlett has great intelligence and courage. Yes, you might notice at first that she's spoiled and selfish and rude and, pretty prideful, but she also has a lot of strength in herself. And she doesn't give up. She fights and fights and doesn't want to, she doesn't want to lose. She's a winner. And whatever is thrown her way, she finds a way to make it work for her, even if it ends up hurting other people around her.
Yep, she has lots of intelligence and courage, and she has ambition. That would be her ability to pursue her goals and actually reach those goals. And she was able to prevail while the South is rebuilding after the ordeals of war. So yeah, there was reconstruction after the Civil War, so they all were suffering there, but she prevailed. She continued to live and thrive and survive. That's what prevail means. You just keep on surviving despite bad situations all around you. And yes, everybody in the South were poor for quite some time. And indeed, she prevailed while the South was rebuilding. And of course, they suffered lots of ordeals in the Civil War and after the war. So an ordeal, of course, is a difficult situation. Boy, that class I taught last week was quite an ordeal. The students were very naughty and they weren't listening. And it was just really hard on me. So yeah, it was quite an ordeal.
I wanted to mention as well with prevail, it's often used to say that something is more powerful than something that's opposing it. So maybe you have a friend you're having this fight with, and your friend's, fighting with comments that just are emotional. They're not logical. And you say to your friend, "Oh, we need some more logic to prevail in this conversation." So sometimes prevail is just used as being something that's more victorious or wins over another opposing thing. So if you're in a war with somebody, say that the United States was fighting against Germany. Well, the United States prevailed in World War II over Germany. We use it that way too. So yeah, there were a lot of ordeals during the war, especially in Scarlett's life. Her character demonstrates the theme of changing gender roles. Now, we would never have brought this theme up before, but this is kind of a new theme in society today. You can see that Scarlett is doing things that only men did back then. She takes charge, she moves forward. The first two husbands she married, she was stronger than both of them and kind of took control. So she reverses the roles when she supervises Frank's business. Remember, he is the second husband, owns a successful business, but when she marries him, she takes control of the business, which made me laugh. Although, of course, people like to gossip. They did like to gossip then as well. And she was often accused of being very unladylike. But Scarlett didn't care. She just wanted to make money.
Okay, so before the war, women managed the home. They were homemakers or housewives.
Mothers.
And men managed business. They were in charge. And of course, most of the novels from the Civil War era have the man as the protagonist or the leading character. This novel's different. Scarlett is the one who's in charge. And yet the men all seem kind of weak, except for Rhett Butler. He's kind of a strong fella there.
He's great.
It's not a male-bashing novel by any means, but still... Scarlett is a very strong character in this book, and she reverses these roles, okay? The role should be women are in the home, men are out making money, but she reverses them. She makes them opposite, okay? I guess the men are supposed to stay at home if she actually totally reverses the role, but in this particular case, she becomes a strong person. She supervises Frank's business. And I think one of them actually had like a nervous breakdown or something like that.
No, that's her father.
The father did. Yeah, he was kind of losing his marbles there from all the stress. So it does earn her a reputation for being unladylike. Yes, that's true, but still she's a strong feminine character here.
Now, the most important theme in the book to our writer here is survival. How do you get through things that are thrown at you? Especially some of the things Scarlett had to survive. Things like war, starvation. I think she was attacked by two different people. There was the Yankee soldier she had to kill in self-defense, and then she was assaulted by the freed black slave. So she had to be pretty tough. Remember, she said at one point, I'm never going to be hungry again. And she would do anything to avoid being hungry. I understand that's a horrible feeling. I've been very blessed in my life. I don't know what that feels like. Starvation is the word we use when people literally are starving to death. Sometimes we'll just use it to exaggerate. I'm starving. And you may have missed one meal. But when people are truly starving, they've gone days and days without a good meal. Maybe there's just no way to get any food. And during war, the farmers are busy trying to defend their countries and their families, and food is scarce. It's tough. She also survives changing social conventions by any means necessary. Social conventions are just sort of those unwritten rules that people are supposed to abide by or follow. I know that when I was growing up, most of the women, it seemed most of the moms, at least in my neighborhood, stayed home and they were housewives. They would take care of the family and the men would go to work. That was a social convention. Or, if you wanted to date someone, you had to wait for the guy to ask you out, which is not true anymore. Those are just social conventions. But they were changing even as Scarlett was living her life back then. You could see that things were changing. So she killed a man. She married her sister's fiancé for money. She did these things to not just help her, though, but to help her entire family. She married her sister's fiancé, supposedly, to save Tara. She needed the tax money. I still think it was rotten.
Yeah, but this is all part of the theme of survival. Sometimes you need to resort to drastic measures in order to survive. So she develops from a pampered girl or spoiled girl to the provider for her whole family to be a successful businesswoman who breaks social customs, social conventions, not only surviving, but eventually becoming prosperous. And that's how the story ends. And hey, if you're looking for a strong woman in literature and in film, this could be the story for you. Okay, that brings us to the end of our discussion for today. Here comes our Chinese teacher.
他的才能、勇气帮助他在南方战争中取得优势。 主动词 help 后面加 to v，to 往往可以省略，看起来像是 help 直接加一个原形动词，这里搭配 prevail 占优势、占上风 ，get control 的意思，要战胜谁？后面加介系词 over 再加名词，例如理智战胜情感 ，reason prevails over emotion。它也有流行、盛行的意思，例如说，这观点在中产阶级很普遍。This attitude prevails among the middle classes. 第3段第1句，他的性格也体现了性别转换的主题。动词 demonstrate 证明、论证，后面加名词或者是 that 子句，表示证明什么。例如说，这些数字清楚地说明现在的经济问题。These numbers clearly demonstrate the current economic problem.它也可以当成不及物动词，表示示威游行。例如，人们聚集抗议这个新政策 People demonstrate against the new policy. 书中女主角可以说是作者的心理写照，受女权运动母亲的影响，并不认同男主外女主内这种想法。所以我们到第3句 Scarlett reverses these roles. 翻转角色 Reverse 翻转颠倒。例如说1、2、3写成3、2、1就是 reverse the order 颠倒次序，把杯子反转过来放 reverse the cup， 倒车 reverse the car。 书中最重要的主题是存活，他不惜一切手段在战争、饥饿等当中存活下来。我们到最后一段第3句，句首 She develops 发展、成长，暗示从小小的苗发展成大树。最后紧接着 from A 加 to B 加 to C， 整个句子不断往上成长，呼应了它的变化。其中一个角色 a pampered girl 娇生惯养的女孩 pampered 宠溺的，不过它包含正面的含义，例如说洗个热水澡，善待一下自己，就可以说 pamper yourself with a hot bath， 和 spoil S-P-O-I-L 不同。A spoiled child 就是完全被宠坏了的屁孩。以上是今天的讲解，谢谢收听。
Well, that's it, guys. We hope we got you a little bit excited about Gone with the Wind. If you can't get your hands on a book, try to see if you can find the movie. Like Tom said, there's so many streaming services these days. I'm sure you'll find it somewhere. It's really worth a read, though. I encourage you guys to get your hands on the book.It's so interesting that it'll keep you glued to the pages. So for all of us here at English Digest, we hope you had a good time. And we hope you'll join us for our next program. For English Digest, I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Tom. Goodbye.
Bye.